This is going to be a little bit of a different take on the masculine and the feminine in this experience, and it'll be based upon the idea of intention through our physiology, being that you have seed producers and seed germinators. In order to germinate the seed, you have to have the right conditions, the right nutrients, the right frequencies in order for that seed to fully blossom into what it's supposed to be. If it's lacking the nutrients, if it's lacking the conditions, that seed would become stunted or not germinate at all. When you're planting a garden, when you're growing food to nourish your body, to nourish your family, you have to have the seeds. You have to have the seeds that produce these fruits, these vegetables, that carry those minerals, that carry those nutrients. Without the seed, you do not have growth. You do not have the information that turns that seed into a plant, those plants into a farm. It is the seed that carries this information. The masculine experience is a seed producer. In those seeds is the nourishment of information, consciousness, evolution. Manipulators of this realm are aware of this relationship between the masculine and the feminine, the seeds in the garden, the soil. They are aware of the power that comes from controlling that expression, that growth. So to control that experience, our awareness, our relationship with that growth is not only stunted, but it's flipped and reversed and sold to us at a surface layer of experience. So instead of growing a part of yourself, your consciousness, through your seed production, you are convinced to channel that energy into the growth of your ego, of the money, of whatever kind of flowers this experience wants you to grow within its garden. And the women just become reproducers of the seed for the gardens of Western so-called civilization, the Western institution. Women have become replicators. So the external becomes amplified. It becomes the focus. How well you produce within the garden of Westernism, that becomes the goal with your seed production. Your seed is no longer your own. Your seed is in reference to the garden of industry. When that happens, you become completely separated from the original garden, the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. Because the feminine, the women, have been downgraded, secondary, manipulated into focusing upon the external versus the internal, which is another flipping upside down and reversing, as the feminine is the internal and the masculine is the external. So the masculine has been manipulated into money, for lack of a better term, and the feminine has been manipulated into sex, objects. This perspective is akin to someone who focuses on the destination instead of the journey, losing out on the entire experience for that one thing. The thing is what produces that drip, that dopamine drip, driving you. The thing is what drives you, rather than the time within the experience. Raising destination children at the expense of the journey, sacrificing the character, sacrificing character building, which takes time, which takes effort for the dopamine drip, seeking drips to the destination, missing the math, missing the science, missing the adventure of the experience, the consciousness within the experience, the growth, the evolution of the experience, because the vision has been flipped upside down and reversed. Sacrificing the internal, the character, for the drip, further emphasizes the surface layer of this divine experience that we inhabit, at the expense of the core intentions, the internal expansion. Kids do this with toys and electronics these days, obviously passed down by the adults, but that's because the adults also do this with toys of their own. The money, the sex, the games, focusing on the attention over the building. There's nothing to build. There's no foundations. You cannot build if you're focused only on looks, There's nothing to build if your attention is on the looks, because your looks are forever changing. Standing on knowledge and awareness is where you can build. These have been pushed out of the forefront of our experience to maintain the narrative, the control over the masses by focusing on the surface, the drip. Literally calling it drip. What you wear over who you are. Raising kids to seek this drip. Raising kids as drip. Reproducing to look a certain way. To appear a certain way. Without investing anything deeper than what is required of this shallow surface layer experience. Like fancy clothes and toys and cars, the intention is to have you raising future generations as the drip, as the clothes that you wear, hiding the disease behind the veil of this drip. Drip is to masculinity like what money is to success. It's a facade. It's confusion. It's ignorance. It's a lack of understanding. Drip is to masculinity just as sexual attractiveness is to feminine beauty. Sexual drip has been amplified at the expense of feminine beauty, at the expense of feminine power, once again emphasizing the surface to suppress the core, the foundation, emphasizing sexual control over the masculine as the norm, romanticizing it, putting it in your movies, in your music, in your belief systems, further amplifying the masculine disease, the lack of focus, the ignorance, the drip, the addiction to the drip, triggering the fullness of seed release to fill the emptiness of the world within. Empty women filling themselves with a constant supply of living seed to fill the dead space of a fruitless garden. Monsanto soils and GMO seeds, forced in so many ways to buy your seeds from their production facility. Artificial growth, virtual seed production, birthing emptiness, descendantless production, time filled with games and physical drip, focusing on how the flowers look or the strength of the production and the relationship with the soil, no longer producing fruit, producing flowers. These days, love is the ultimate drip. Physical love at the expense of functional love. Dopamine drip love over living love. Intentional love. Conditioned to produce flowers instead of fruits and vegetables. Visuals over nourishment. Pretty crystals over nourishing minerals. Over time, these flowers turn to weeds, and those weeds to barren gardens. Crops so modified at this time, they're even destroying the garden, the soil. We are the Monsanto seeds, and our lands are being bought up and manipulated by the controllers. Love between people sold today as climate change is sold to the masses. Your relationship with the experience itself. It's not full of attachments, it is the attachment. The attachment to detachment. Numbed, hollowed out, full with genetically modified emptiness.